guys. I know this is kind of stressful. You come in to give us a little combining time, but we'll make this as efficient as we can. So thanks for coming in.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of the meeting from September 25th of 2018.
Move approval of September 25th minutes.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Ray F. and a second by John Gunderson. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Minutes stand as approved as read. Okay, we've got a couple minutes here, I guess, before Steve's is at 7:05. We'll have to- Do you have anything, Pat? Do you have anything for us before?
No, I really don't.
Okay.
Guess I should have taken one.
Then get into the question of what the example run.
Casey,
Again, an assumption.
are you with the Corps of Engineers, or are you with, what are you with?
I was for 20 years. 2011, I switched over to Interior.
Oh, the Corps
But
of
still
Engineers, now
working.
Interior.
Still working Missouri
The
River.
line isn't right.
Hopefully,
Lines were not drawn.
a couple more years.
You member of the Sedimentation Coalition?
Yep.
But they're better than nothing.
So you're a dam worker too, I mean,
I am a down worker.
Corps of Engineers, Geological Survey changes its mapping. But the best that we've got is set the
Are you still waiting?
Yeah, we've got it advertised as at 7:05.
Is there any results, have any of you guys heard?
Next item on the agenda is Steve Schmidt. It's a continuance from last month. The applicant is requesting a drainage permit to install tile drainage in Yankton County. Said property is legally described as the north one half of the northeast one quarter, and the north one half of the northwest one quarter, and the southwest one quarter of the northeast one quarter of the southeast one quarter of the northwest one quarter of the northeast one quarter of the southwest one quarter of the northwest one quarter of the southeast one quarter, and 1 acre of the southeast one quarter of the southwest one quarter. Section 28, Township 94 North, Range 55 West, hereinafter referred to as Volun Township, County of Yankton, State of South Dakota. We also just received print off some sheets here. Steve brought in. So I guess we'll, Steve, why don't you come up and explain to us what's transpired since our last meeting here?
Last meeting, you wanted to know the lift station capacity, which is 1,200 gallons or more. And that we can put a 12-inch, that lift station will handle an additional 12-inch line hooked into that, up to that, across the road there to the south there, to drain that all down into there. And then I talked to Charlie about taking them Hickenbottoms out, and that's not a problem there. And then we could put a valve gate, stop gate up in that other quarter, that coming out of there, if a fella starts to get too much water, if the ditch is too full, to slow it down, which is not a problem.
So I review this just a little bit with you, Steve.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so looking up here, and those guys are looking at their site plans. But
Yep.
Here's my outlet,
Yeah, right down in the corner.
right there. That's the outlet, and that's where the lift station is. And so we're gonna get that lift station at what capacity? What's it say on that?
1,200.
Okay, all right. And we got this water here coming in.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got an opening right there,
Yep.
and another opening about right there.
When you say
No,
opening,
no.
Those
They're,
surface
they're
drains.
both by the
They're
intersection.
both right there?
Yeah, they're both,
Okay,
yeah.
those are those.
okay, so I'm gonna call them surface drains. So far, we've got this boosted up,
Yep,
then we got, so we will eliminate these two surface drains.
right by the intersection, yep,
Those will go away.
yep.
Now, we have another surface drain out in here somewhere?
No,
We're not gonna have any
No.
more surface drains in there, so I won't have to fuss. If
No.
there is one, okay, so no surface drains. Now, okay, then the other piece is that we're gonna add another parallel,
yep,
how big?
12 inch,
Okay, are we all together on that? And currently it's a 10,
right,
so we should have capacity with that additional 12. Everybody agree with that?
So we got a 10 and a 12.
10 and a 12. And we'll run them, they'll be parallel,
yep.
okay?
And the reason we gotta do that is because them there, that little triangle is there. We put a solid pipe in there and, for the roots, and that floated in there.
Okay,
It was too wet.
So-
And we got a gooseneck in there, and it's not letting that water go on through.
So you gotta
so we're
dig
gonna
that
fix
back
this
up
10
again.
inch.
So, yeah, that's a
Fix
10
this
inch.
And we're gonna, and then what? Now all this water here is now gonna go into a 12 inch?
Right,
That'll
correct.
go parallel with this 10 inch?
Right,
So we won't, this water here will not go into this 10 inch anymore,
right,
You're gonna cut the 10 inch.
yeah,
okay?
yep.
So we're gonna have it, this 10 inch.
And we got the
feeds
10 inch
this.
inside the field far enough, we can go,
We'll cap it here, right?
yep,
And it's gonna feed all of these lines if and when they get fed
Yeah.
in there. Right now, it's just right up there.
yep,
Okay, so no expansion until we know where we're at with the ditch. So right now, we're feeding these guys. Take a look, that was the original site plan, was this,
right,
and a 10-inch line running along here.
yep,
Okay, so now this 10-inch line will be capped here. We're gonna take a 12-inch line, main line, and we're gonna run it all along parallel that 10-inch line,
Yep.
correct?
right,
Okay, and that's gonna take care of all this tile.
yep,
Okay, no more open drains,
nope.
eliminate those. Okay, where do we gate this 12-inch line?
To the south there, we can go right up in that corner, down.
Right there at that section
No,
line?
well, we can go there, or we can go over a quarter of a mile, right there, that's where I thought.
Okay, you take a look at your site plans, where should we
Then
gate this guy?
we can gate that quarter.
We
Explain the gate.
gate the whole thing.
If you say the ditch is too full, then we can stop that water up there till the ditch goes down.
I'm in favor of down in here. The reason why is that I don't want this pressure building in here and causing issues
Right.
with neighbors.
Right.
But I have some drainage going in here that we won't be able to be blocking off though. So maybe I'm gonna need 2 gates until we get this ditch cleaned out. You see what I'm saying? I need a gate in here, but I don't wanna affect this neighboring property, in my opinion. If we're gonna, cause this is tile,
Yeah,
right?
yep, correct.
So I got all this tile, what we're doing here, right? This ditch needs to be cleaned out. It's gonna take a number of years before we get to this point where that water goes the right direction. Until then, this needs to be, we need to be able to block this entire lower system.
You know, I've been there for 30 years about, and this year was the first time I seen that ditch go backwards.
And I agree that, but I'm
Yeah.
convinced these events are not done. And so if an event like that happens, we have the ability to block that off, because now the ditch up here is running backwards. Does everybody concur with that?
Well, yeah.
Currently, it runs backwards. If we get too much water in there, the ditch runs backwards because it's not cleaned out properly. Because it isn't, it's a drainage ditch.
And they just levied the taxes to
Yes.
start next year to,
Yes, correct. So this spring, they'll start cleaning. And then, so, in the meantime, if it's a normal event, the gates don't have to get closed down.
Right,
But if it gets back up there in that 6-7 inch rain events, and we're starting to see this, we gotta block this off. Because we don't have capacity in the blue line.
What's the current capacity of the ditch?
We don't know. That's the other problem.
How
But we
wide is
do know that after that huge event, it did run backwards.
oh, well, how wide would that be? Would it be 15 foot?
Oh, I'd say so.
12, it's gonna be 12, 15, somewhere in there.
But it's got spoils on it.
Yeah.
So that's not fair. It's not a,
It's not, no, yeah.
you
it's
can't
been flared.
say that it's got this much capacity, because most of that capacity spoils. If you stood in the ditch and went ground level to ground level and got the spoils out, I don't think there's 2 feet in that ditch, to be honest with you.
Probably.
If you took the spoils out and stood there level to
Well,
level.
that all comes out of the hills and then down along 448, most of it. When that water runs along the oil there, then it dumps in there and then goes east.
My situation here is this. We know that ditch isn't working right. We look at our ordinance, you look at 310, the very first thing it tells you is that if your receiving water course is not capable of handling this, we probably wouldn't have given the permit. So we need to block this off. We need to have the option of blocking that off.
On the west side, it looks like there's a blue line. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That drains into this is.
That's
this
the same
drain-
ditch.
Some of this drains over into this blue ditch, but then there's another one here that some of it drains back into too.
The ditch we're referring to is right here.
Right.
It's a blue line ditch.
And that, to the west, what you're talking about, that was cleaned out here 4 or 5 years ago.
Yes, by Freebergen guy, because it was on his property.
Yeah.
This is where we have to start, right here. And the ditch just got levied, so we can start doing it. It's
See
not
where,
like it's
see
gonna
where that
cost-
makes that circle there, right down there, where that, right, oh,
Right
down?
in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
See, that comes out of Marindal, the other one, and when that hits there, that Y there, that sand will berm it up there. And a lot of times, if it was just cleaned out there, it would help a lot way back west.
Yep. So we finally got a levy. In the meantime, I've got this tile that I don't know, let's go back to 310, which is important.
Mhm.
Well, then Steve has said, well, and we've talked about it the other meeting, could we put a gate in there? Let's put a gate in there until we can get this ditch cleaned out. And his supplier says, or installer says it's feasible, and I've read since then too, and it certainly is, you just can't have head pressure against it. But this is very flat. So it actually will work there. Probably wouldn't work up in Turkey Valley, but it will work down here.
That 10-inch. Where the hell did we go, Craig? Does that run in this field?
Yep,
Then how come the ditch was messed with?
we cleaned that all out when, because,
This is a township road here.
yep,
Half of this road, this is township up to this here place, and then it is
yeah.
gravel. And then this here is a minimum maintenance township road down. But this here ditch was messed with.
Yeah, I cleaned that out when we had all that water from Vic and Virgil's place there actually runs to the south, to the corner there, and there's supposed to be a culvert. There is a culvert in there, but it's been, Vic and Virgil, when they were alive, they said that's been covered up for years and years. It's supposed to come to that intersection and go across to the intersection to the south and then east down to the game refuge.
So you cleaned that out?
I cleaned it out with a,
No, that's something you needed a permit for too. Did you have a permit for that?
no.
That'd be that's a township. That's a township ditch. It wasn't a drainage ditch. That was township.
Okay.
And the ditch,
And then that water all went to the ditch.
and that's also where the tile, the main line is buried, right in that same area.
Yeah.
I mean, he ran the ditch, when the capacity wasn't appearing and it was starting to come up those open drains there after that big rain event,
Mm-hmm.
then that main line floated right after the intersection there. Well, then the water's gotta go somewhere, so he's out there digging the ditch down to the end there, so it gets back into the lift station, so it goes back into the drainage ditch. So, like you said, this pipe here floated on us.
Yeah.
Well, then it's worthless.
Right.
And we got all this tile back behind here trying to get out of there, so it's coming out those,
Hickenbottoms.
Surface
Yeah.
Just a technical question, and we've got an expert sitting over there. If you put an air relief in that where it humps, would that stop it from floating?
No. Because it's already in the ground and the ground is underneath holding it up.
I'm asking for an opinion.
Oh, okay.
What were you asking?
I'll take it from either one of you.
Once that's laid in with a little ripple in it,
We're
then
not-
you're toast. The only thing you can do possibly is to Y into it, go around it, and Y out the other way. But if it doesn't have the capacity to handle what it is, I said, Steve, you're going for a 12,
Yeah,
correct? If you need a 12, you can't, I think he's got a better plan.
Okay, I just, again, just out of curiosity.
mm-hmm. The only other way you could do is dig alongside of it, and boy, that'd be a bugger. Then try to get that all back down. I don't know if that would work.
I wouldn't do that.
No.
I would Y and
Go around it.
around it.
Yeah.
And that might be an alternative once your other one is in to give you the
Uh-huh.
additional capacity. How deep are you in, Steve?
Down by the lift station, it's right at 6 foot.
6 foot. How deep is the regular line coming through, the 10-inch so far?
The 4-inch, they're about 3 foot down.
No, the 10-inch.
Yeah, that's about 6 foot down.
About 6 foot, okay.
And then it works its way up all the way. And then at the end, I think it's right at a little over 3 foot down.
Well, we need to get back to
Mm-hmm.
this discussion here.
My thought on the cutouts, they're 1,200 gallons a minute on a ditch that's six feet wide, 4 feet wide, and 2 to 3 feet deep. That's tears on a river. I mean, it's not that much water.
Well, John, I had the same situation a couple of years ago, and I remember you bringing up, you know, and
Yeah.
I did not tile because that ditch did not have capacity. And it doesn't have capacity right now, is the problem. If it's clean, it'll probably have the capacity.
Yeah, you're right.
It goes back to 310, number one.
Yeah.
And that's why with this situation, we're gonna have to enforce the gates.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Paul.
And the open drains.
Yeah. Both those.
Mm-hmm.
But in all honesty, we wouldn't do this, we wouldn't, this would be a rejected permit and wait until we got the ditch clean.
You've got, what, a mile to clean before it gets over to the Y?
Yeah. Mile and a half.
Well, yeah.
What rate are they levying? How much money are they pulling in?
As much as they can get, but it's not much.
I mean, it's kinda like the way we were up there,
That's-
so it'll be like a 3-year project, 4-year project to get enough money.
You won't
It
be able
is what it
to,
is, so,
and won't be able to get into it till it freezes.
To get into what?
To clean it out. They're gonna do it this year.
Well, they don't have any money yet.
No, they don't, but somebody might.
their first payment will come in April.
See, like, when that ditch runs backwards, that goes over to the 448 Avenue, then goes around them trees, and then comes back east on the other side of the ditch, on the north side of the ditch, and it fills that all up with water over there, is what happens. When Marindal is too high, or the Vermilion River's too high, then it backs it up. But like I said, I was there for about right at 30 years, and last year was the first time I've ever seen that do that. This year,
We're having more of these
you know.
major floods, major droughts.
Well, that's why if we put a gate in there, that would, till a lot of times it's about 2 days. This year it went backwards for 2 days, then it started going out. Then that water starts flowing.
Are we opening ourselves up to lawsuits if we approve this and it floods out somebody else's ground because the ditch didn't have capacity?
This one's
You gonna
complicated.
plug it?
Plug.
It's in. I think we're at a point where we have to do as much management we can do here. Unless you have it be pulled out. If you take a look at the site plan, why don't you go ahead and sit down?
Okay.
We'll go over this again, because we'll have to get public comment too. Look at your site plan. I understand the angst here, and I do believe, and I will promote that I believe that this warrants taking a look at your ordinance too, because there are repercussions for doing this. I've already got 10 hours into this. You pay me $30 an hour. I'm gonna have 15 hours into this before it's over, and really, let's be honest, I'll have 20 hours into this because we'll have to check this too. So even if we plug it, I still have to spend more time doing this. So this is one thing where you gotta take a look at your ordinance and see and make your recommendations for that piece too when we get done here. Second of all, if we go in there and we do these things, we got a couple of things going for us. One, it's flat. So the gate will work because it is flat. And it worked just as well there as it will up in North Dakota. And we will ensure that he puts in a proper gate. There's not a lot of engineering to it. They're really relatively simple. So we'll make sure we do that, and if we want, we'll put 2 of them in. We don't want to see any water from that first part there. We don't want to see any water come from south of 307th if we don't want it. It's up to us whether we let that water come through or not, based on how that ditch is performing. As John said, I'll agree 110% that's teardrops into the volume of water that's in that ditch. But we have to remember, 310, number 1, is very clear about the fact that if the receiving water course is not capable of even taking care of current issues, we shouldn't add to it, even if it is tiers. And that's what's going on there. When we see that it came back around 448th, and then it's not that lift station's fault that it came around 448, nor is it Steve Schmidt's tiling that caused that, but it is a problem. We've got a receiving water course that's not up to par. Then lastly is that they'll be the easiest to manage. There'll be something that's very easy to document. When I'm gone, the next person can look at it and it'll be easy to manage, and we won't be in there fighting something down the road there it needs to be a little bit of ABC too. And then as that moves forward and we get that ditch and we get more people involved with that ditch and make that ditch work the way it's supposed to, then we can promote more tiling down there.
What would it cost to clean that ditch out?
I don't care.
No.
I don't care tonight. I just want to get to some solutions in what I'm dealing with. I think Craig could probably tell you a better shot of what it's going to cost to do that ditch than any of us can. He just finished doing it. So, but that part there right now is that receiving water course. I don't know, Paul did some research for you. You're up there at Lesterville when you looked at that, what that would take to clean. But remember, under today's conditions, the spoils have to be gone. They have to go away now under the new floodplain regulations. So that's part of the cost of cleaning that up.
They gotta be hauled out, spoils?
Yep. Well, they can be hauled right next door, just flattened out, but I need they can't be spoils. So is there anything, I didn't get a chance to look at your documentation that Steve gave you there, but is that clearly outlined in there, in that documentation? Or do we need to make it clearer yet in our minutes and our findings? Or do you want to discuss, we'll have to get public comment. We certainly can discuss this some more, but that's,
So we have to get public comment first?
yep, okay.
Is there anybody else that is here to speak in favor of the tiling project?
The Schmidt tiling project.
Yeah, it's the Schmidt tiling project. Okay, hearing none, is there anybody here that would like to speak against it? Okay. Hearing none, we'll close the public portion and we'll go to the board discussion on this. From this Charlie's construction, his recommendations, he said to install a 12-inch pipe to the lift station. The number 4 one, he says, also we can install a gate valve to slow down the floor, stop it completely. I mean, that's just, he said they could do that.
Pat, I've got some administrative questions relative to this permit. At the last meeting, I asked that the actual official permit application reflect accurately the activity that's being permitted
Okay.
through this action. I don't see any permit application that states anything about a 12-inch line being installed. The drawings, everything shows a 10-inch, and it doesn't have any feet at all listed about a 12-inch or any gates or the requirement to do that. And so how do we administratively require that that be done if that's what we want to have happen, if it's not reflected in the permit? Considering the fact that we're dealing here with a after-the-fact activity that was done without a permit to start with. Which causes me concern.
That's definitely the chicken and the egg. So I have an application that, no, let's see, I have an installation before a building permit, before an application, before anything. The site plan that you got attached to bring this forth to you regarding that south property does not have a building permit issued to it. Because did not have a drainage permit issued to it. And the reason why is because it would require a public hearing to do that. And so I could not administratively issue that permit, although I admit, so what happens is that I bring him in front of the board in which we go through the whole process and create the permit for him, because it's after the fact. And then, once we have the approval to do that, it would say we're gonna have this many feet of laterals, this many feet of main line, because at the point, all I have right now is his site plan that he gave to us just before we started when we started this hearing. I never got a chance to get a building permit or a drainage permit on it because it was done before I.
So there's no application for a permit at this time?
No. Nope. Now, should I get one? Should that step come first and we go back? Should I get the application for the permit and get everything laid out in front on that end so that we're clear of what we're offering? Or do we establish what we're offering after what we see here? My thought process is this is already installed. I would just soon have my commission review it along with me.
So that's my second question, Pat. I am very concerned about the precedent-setting nature of this action. That we have an installed drainage system that is being brought in front of us that we are going to accommodate because it's installed. To hell with permits.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go install tile. How do we administratively protect ourselves from de facto permitting of drain tile under this ordinance?
First of all, I guess you would have your your civil and your legal authority there back on the fines and the punishments that are available for folks that don't get the permits before they do the installation. Second of all, you would be able to go to section 310, number 1, and say that the receiving water course is basically, this would be the reason why the reason why the permit would be denied would be because the receiving water courses are not sufficiently capacity, and You can plug it.
You know, that brings another question up too. This Charlie's Construction that installed this tile, I mean, we should have required the proper paperwork and proper permits before anything was done.
I can't stand by that. The only place that we have in our ordinance is that the landowner's is the responsibility. It isn't the installer. I don't have any authority to make that happen. It's not in there. It's not in the ordinance.
Does this become part of the administrative record, this Charlie's Construction Incorporated that we got handed tonight?
Yes.
This becomes part of the administrative record?
This become part of the hearing record.
And the minutes will document the decision if we require gated pipe? Or the gates on the pipe? I mean, where is the permit application that is filed for this activity say gates will be installed? And when they will be in action?
Mr. Chairman,
Okay?
Casey, when we're done tonight, we'll do a findings of fact and conclusions of law. And that is our recommendation that will go to the Board of Adjustment. And the
Well-
restrictions, recommendations that we put in, that's part of that record. And that will be the de facto permit, because that's what they're gonna vote on. Now, we've got somebody that did something without permission and is causing a problem. In the past, Pat's right, we would not have permitted this until the ditch was cleaned out. Because, again, we get into a problem where there's a ditch, but it doesn't have any more capacity. So we're trying to fix a problem that normally, in the past, we've prevented by saying, no, you can't put the tile in yet.
How are we fixing that?
Well, we've got three choices. The first one is we tell them to go out tomorrow morning with a tractor and plug it and rip it up. The second one is, if you're gonna put a lift station in, that's great. Then you run a pipe over the Y so it does not go in the ditch. And you maintain that pipe until the ditch is cleaned. Or the third thing is to clean the ditch out this fall and this winter. Those are basically, comes down to our three choices. We either destroy it or we fix it so it doesn't cause a problem.
We could put a gate in and have that locked until the ditch is cleaned.
Personal opinion, I'm not an engineer, but if you don't keep water running in these tiles, you know what happens. They soak up.
No, I don't know if they would.
That's, again, opinion, I'm not an engineer. But those are our three choices. And, you know, if it's the option, we lock the gates until the ditch is cleaned, then that's a moot point too. I guess that gives us a fourth option.
Let's go back to Casey's discussion there. Procedure. Applicant comes in, I got a drainage, okay, we take a look. Okay, let's look at your site, let's look at your possibilities, what are you doing, where's your outlet? Oh, you've got a blue line going right through your property there, very good. Administrative, we can do that. When this gentleman came in, first of all, his very first permit is what you see in front of you. The actual administrative permit was a main line that ran from this corner up to this end here with the lift station in which we were going to tile this north end of the property. That was an administrative permit. That 10-inch line ended right there and eventually was going to tile this entire 40 acres. Is that what it is? Sorry. Okay, so it was going to tile that whole 160. So with this 10-inch line, okay, now, I don't have any permits on this. No one came in and got any permits. No one, I find out in the middle of the summer, and I started hearing rumors about things going on, and then pretty soon after the big rain, we got a flood issue down here. When we do, if he would have came in and asked for this permit, it would have went into the public hearing. And I would have said, give me a site plan, show me what you're going to do here, and then we have to go in front of the commission and the board and get a public hearing. Now, This particular incident, I didn't get a plan. I didn't even get a site plan. I didn't even get a permit going because I didn't know this happened. Now, when I went and said, you have to come in and start hearing in front of the board and the commission, remember, I don't have a site, I don't have anything. There's nothing administratively been done here. So this is basically, you're taking a look just like we would otherwise and saying, I can't give a permit until you give permission, granted permission to a recommendation to give a permit. So I don't have any administrative activity in here, other than what my administrative activity, my homework, my activity for you folks as support staff has been to get this site plan, get these open drains, get the public comment, and find out what we did there and what can be done with what we have here. And so then that's where we stand. The permit itself for this south end is not issued. There is no permit. And so we're in a hearing to see if a permit could be issued. And if there is one issued, then what conditions will be put on that permit, if there's a possibility of, if it can be permitted.
I guess I'm still concerned that we don't have an application that spells out the expectations.
I think we have to say them. We got an app, that, as far as I'm concerned, he gave us this thing and said we're going to run another 10-inch down there. And last time, you look at my meeting minutes, last time we told him, no, we're not. You're going to go and get rid of your open valves. All he gave me was that site plan, and it shows where the open valves were and we're at the 10-inch line. We were just going to run another 10-inch line there for that whole south end. That's all we were going to get. And we said, no, you're going to make that all different. You got to increase, remember your meeting, we got to increase your lift station capacity. You're going to have to increase your capacity on your total system because you're not up to par. Your 10-inch is not going to do that. And you're going to have to get rid of your surface drains. And you may have to think about a gate because you have a capacity issue on your ditch. That's what you left your continuance with last time. Now he's come back and he's addressed each of those. So then, is there more conditions? Or do we say, we're going to put the gate in until that ditch is fixed, you're not opening that end? I don't care. We'll do whatever you want, but there's the situation.
My concern is what has it been this year? If we allow this, how many unauthorized projects are we gonna have down in that area?
Then we have to increase the fines. Are we going to get that wild out there? Is it going to be that? I don't know what to say. Then if we go that lawless, I'm really shocked with this too. But I say we fine them. Your cheapest fine is $500.
Yeah,
What's it go up to?
$1,000 a day.
So just, you know, we're going to have them go wild on us out there, and we're not going to let them get away with it. This is very frustrating. I know that. I got a ton of hours dumped in this dumb thing. But the feasibility of saying we're going to go in there and pull it out, I think is silly.
So the
But we can
gate
plug it.
recommendation is to gate the unpermitted piece of the drainage system, not at the lift station on the already permitted piece.
Correct.
Correct.
But right there,
Okay.
at that intersection. And since there'll be no open valves there, there won't be a pressure situation that then affects. Last time Gary Smith was here, and he certainly doesn't want any water, and neither do these people. And they want that ditch fixed. So we get this all back under there, and the ditch gets fixed. There's lots of things you should be asking for. Ray made it quite clear. I would like this road fixed back to where it's supposed to be and a 2-year maintenance on that thing. I want this ditch fixed the way it's supposed to be, and this lady has a decent road going down there. And that we're not screwing around with that. And she doesn't have an embankment that she could roll off into. That all gets fixed. But you can make that clear to this, and then it's fixed. That right now has got an embankment on it. That's not the way that can be left.
449?
Yeah.
The ditch that we dug there to get that water down out of there, it's got too much of an embankment on it.
But that's a township issue.
We can say part of this drainage is you're going to make it work with the township.
Because there was never an okay cross intersection anyway.
Should have a 2. a lot of our row agreements, and say, let's do a row agreement. You're gonna see one in that next one. You're gonna see a row agreement. And in there, it's just a right-of-way agreement. It says you're gonna take care of the ditch, you're gonna take care of the road for 2 years, and the township will let, for 2 years, you're gonna do that for them. And that means you're gonna put gravel where you got that indentation, and you're gonna make the ditches right. And we can make a row agreement before we issue this out. And fix the errors. Will it make it rampant? I hope not. I don't think Steve's enjoying this. I don't think that everybody just would want to say, this is what we're going to do. Let's all meet out there and scheme away on this and figure out how we're going to do this. You guys are smart. We're not going to let people run over the top of it. I agree with what you're saying, Casey. It needs to be clean as a whistle. You bet it does. But I believe by the time we finish with the findings and you get done with this tonight, we'll have it one. But I also want to be careful about plugging. It isn't easy either.
We've got quite a few unauthorized projects that have been done out there, don't we, that have never been brought to.
I haven't got any. Unauthorized?
I thought there was a number of them,
For drainage?
yeah.
There's none. I don't know of any.
We've had stuff that's happened, but people have been counseled to come into Pat and that we've either approved it, fixed it, but we haven't had anything that's caused a problem.
Yeah.
I think if anything I might have an issue with is when they come in and do a quarter more, threw in some more on this one, or said we're just going to put in 10 lines and it turns out to be 7 acres. So you just pull them in and no, get this permitted. This isn't, but you've gotten everyone that has to do anything when it comes across a line or anything like that. If it's not vested drainage rights or it's not blue lines, you're getting them. They go across the section line, you're going to get them. No more partnerships. The next one that you have is a partnership where you just be able to get the two together and then we'd run that as a administrator, but we don't do that anymore either. So it's pretty clear which ones we do administratively. So if you hear of any, let me know. But so far, I haven't had any. We watch it pretty. I mean, I've caught some out there doing it, but we drag them in.
And they howl. So I've got a couple phone calls, people that have talked to Pat. Believe it or not, he can be unpleasant at times. What do we got to do to fix this? I guess that's the question. It's done. What do we do to fix it? We've got the road. I mean, if Steve had come in here with an application to tile it, we have no problem with tiling it, but we would have put conditions on so that he wouldn't leave a berm alongside a road, for example.
Well, the fact that the water course does not have capacity, we
Right.
stopped it. There would not have been a permit issued, period.
And we had a permit earlier this year where the tile ore was willing to go in and take a track hoe and clean a waterway out to make it work better. And that's happened several times. People have just done that. Would we have made that a condition on this permit? I wasn't here last meeting, so you guys have got an hour ahead of me. You're fun to watch on video, but it's different reading. But that's the question. What do we do? The rule is you can drain, but you can't damage somebody else when you're doing it. Okay, how do we do it so there's not damage? I know it's flat down. But we're not down there with Frank Martz and his drag line anymore either.
That's a mile and a tenth over to that drainage ditch that comes from Marindal.
It's called Clay Creek.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little mile quarter, I don't know.
A mile and a half.
It's over a mile, yeah, it might be close to a mile and a half.
No, just a mile. But yeah,
Well,
Gary's is a 40.
You probably don't have drop to get water down there if you did put a tile in there.
What's that?
You probably wouldn't have enough drop to get. You have to have a lift station right
Right,
now.
right, correct.
You mean to
Then
get,
like now it's, you know, there ain't a whole lot of water now, there's, I don't know what would be if it rained that much.
yeah, there's probably a foot and a half, 2 feet of water in that waterway right now. If it'd be cleaned out, there probably wouldn't be any.
Well, it's still coming up down from the north on the
Yeah.
440.
Okay, if the drainage ditch is working, which is supposed to work, let's all come to one conclusion. We know that drainage ditch can work. I think we'll all conclude that if it's cleaned out right, I think they did their thing right, that should work. It should flow to the east and flow over to Clay Creek and flow out. Okay, so do we ever, how much, as we look at this and what we're learning right now, and Ray, you live out in this country a bit, but I've watched it a while, John's watched a little bit, are we ever going to really be able to tile a lot in that country? Is there a future in tile in that? Or is that ditch ever going to really be capable of handling that kind of tile? Or what is our issue? So with that being said, how much emphasis are we going to put on the fact that this ditch here and what it's capable of handling, will it ever be able to handle that? Or are we going to be looking at a situation where we're going to have to be limiting how many people can tile into it because the ditch can only take so much? Where are we going to be at with this?
which, the Clay Creek ditch or the?
The volume lateral, getting it over to there.
Okay.
Let's just back, because the other principle here too is that all these properties here could come in under administratively and tile into the ditch. These properties all can. Is ditch gonna ever be, is this a capable ditch? Is it meant for that? And that, with that being said, then what I'm trying to get at is that what are we protecting here? Do we want these tiles to go in, or are we gonna say maybe we just don't have the capacity in here for any of this tile?
Well,
Do we think in the future that that tile will have, that ditch will have enough capacity for tile?
that's one of my concerns. There's people along there that have paid into that ditch that should have the right and the ability to drain into that ditch. But if it's filled with water that's coming from outside of that drainage district, that is
Yeah.
not taxed land to pay for the maintenance of that ditch, is that fair?
You know, I mean, Craig will attest to that, and that's true. That isn't where we have to be, but I want to be careful about how much we look at this ditch in terms of how much we're going to allow these people to tile or not. I don't know if we have the right answers for ourselves right now for capacity of ditch.
John, you're a geezer.
Thank you.
What did that ditch look like 40 years ago? I know what it looked like in the last 20. How wide was it? How much silt? Because it comes back to the basic question, when, you know, who knows how much people are gonna tile into that cotton picket thing? If people start buying those 20s and turn them into 120s, they're gonna wanna drain that ground right into that ditch. Somebody who only has 20 acres may not. But when you start getting rid of the little allotments and making them bigger parcels, that's a Pandora's box to ask if that drainage has capacity until it's cleaned out and we see how it works. We don't know what its capacity to drain.
Well, I'm not in the hill country and I'm not in the flatlands, I'm kinda in between, but as I remember that, and you pegged 40 years ago, I talked about Frank Martz a minute ago. You know, Frank knew how much money the district had, and then he would work with his drag line until he got into the trees, and then he'd get his old cat out and his old D6, and he'd start shoving trees out of the way. And he knew about how much money he could spend and how much diesel fuel he could buy, and he had virtually no equipment cost. And he would clean out so many miles a year. And I'm assuming that's the old railroad line, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, over the years, they've knocked that down and farmed it out. Equipment's gotten bigger, so it's easier to knock that old railroad embankment out. There's still pieces of it in there and still messing things up.
I say that your best solution is the gate down there at the intersection, and just flat out enforce it. And if you want, I don't care if it's 100%, or we make judgment calls, or whatever we do. But until we know what we got going on in that ditch, we don't want that water from south of 307th. Just, I can't see how else we can move forward until, and that I think helps with enforcement. But it also gives us some time to evaluate that ditch and get more cleaned out, and we get some money going. They are going to go in this spring, and we can look and see how progress works with that, and it can give us a chance to see what's going on.
Mr. Chairman? John? You know, I'm exploring all options. I started out with plugging it. He turned a little green. What happens if he hooks a pipe on it and pipes it over to Clay Creek? He's removed all the water all the tile water out of the ditch, and he's put it into Clay Creek.
Yeah, that's an option.
Now, whether he buries it or, if he buries it, he's gotta get an easement. If he runs it across in the neighbor's fence line, he's gonna have to get an easement. But the guys that are draining into it are all gonna benefit, and I would imagine they wouldn't complain too much about getting rid of the water. But you never know how people are like. Would we encourage that?
Where's Clay Creek? Is that over here?
That's a diagonal on the far right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the idea of tiling is you drain your water table down when you're not getting no rain. So when you do get a rain, it holds the rain. So it's not running off on the neighbor's ground. You know? So,
We don't have any problem with the philosophy of the tile. It's the god dang, it's the precedent is what is the number one issue here when you get right down to it. Because Mr. Doomer could not, and it's the same issues. We have to have.
Chairman of the board couldn't get a tile put in because of this exact same situation.
In Lesterville. And there's been some others. We have to have capacity in the stream. And we were, unfortunately, if you want to look at it that way, whatever, but it happened. And there it sits. So we got to move off center here, folks, and try and come up with which way you want to go on this thing. I will start. May I have permission to start moving on the evaluation so we can discuss what we have to cover here?
Yeah, let's do that.
That okay?
So we.
There's still room for discussion.
Yeah, we're just board discussion. So
Okay.
we'd have to.
So we got section 309. It goes right to what we're talking about. So we've got the flow or the quality of water to be drained will not overburden the water course into which the water will be drained. And right now, we have yes, it will, correct?
Yep.
Okay. The drainage will not flood or adversely affect land of the lower proprietors, or in the case of an impediment to drainage, whether such an impediment will not flood or adversely affect upstream landowners. It will also be covered in section 310, but we got another yes here, don't we?
Yep.
Okay, easements will be granted where required. Now, in my opinion, we need a row. We don't need an easement, but we need a row agreement for the Volun Township 307th and for 449th. Is that what that is?
Yes.
Yep.
Is that correct? Need a row agreement. The drainage will not negatively affect agriculture productivity. And that's an affirmative. It won't negatively affect it.
Except if it's backing up on somebody else's land.
Okay. Okay. So we have some, but the backup can be a problem. So okay. Okay. Let's talk through that. What are we talking backup? We talking from the surface drains?
Drains, and then
Okay.
they said the ditch ran backwards this year because the capacity wasn't there.
And that'd go back up to number 2, though. But the surface drain's a good point. That's the one we need to be, I think, that would negatively affect agricultural property. The surface drainage needs to be removed.
But if we don't have capacity in that ditch and we add more water to it and we back it up, that's that much more water that's being backed out on somebody's ground.
That's number 2.
But we're adversely affecting agricultural property.
Okay, I suppose they're both the same. Okay, so the backup too? Okay. Five, the land affected or land drained is and will remain rural in character.
Yeah.
When the land is to be drained, the presumption of the factors set forth in SDCL 46A, 10A, 20 will be satisfied, which is that the receiving water course will have sufficient capacity. It's not, is it?
Can I ask a question?
Just,
If he shuts the gates, that won't affect the capacity for him if he has to shut the gates? Or, he's not adding to the flow, why is that? I guess I don't
Well,
understand why that's an issue.
We don't have a gate in there. We're trying to decide what to do.
I thought there was one gate.
No, there's no gates in there yet.
Gotcha, sorry, thank you.
adequate precautions have been taken to ensure that roadways will not be negatively impacted. Currently not. Okay, so, so the recommendations from the Drainage Commission and the findings of fact, and that other factors that would be pertinent to the application. Okay, so with that being said, number 8, what are the recommendations? What are the recommendations regarding the overburdening of the watercourse in number 1? We say that will be an overburdening. What's the recommendation?
A logical one would be if your creek is full, then you can't pump.
Just shut the pump off.
Yep, that you can't, he can't use the lift station if the blue line is full. He
How-
can't add to current capacity.
Do we have elevations?
No. Okay,
That becomes a regulatory issue,
Yep.
an enforcement issue.
let's go back. We can't, Ray, we can't do that because we have an administrative permit for that 160. Okay? That's all permitted. He's permitted. And everything's he's got some mainline issues, but everything's logical with that. The capacity's there, that's covered.
I think it's very important that we stay consistent. As soon as we start picking and choosing what parts of the ordinance we're gonna do or not do on a particular permit activity, I think we've lost the value of what this ordinance does for the county. And we have, as we discussed here with Paul, this permit would not have been granted had it come in for the appropriate procedures. Therefore, my recommendation is until there is capacity in that blue line to accept the drainage water from this additional system that the 12-inch line would provide, that we gate that off and that water doesn't come in until there's capacity in the blue line to receive it. Then and only then would we permit it, if we're consistent with what we've done to everybody else that's come before us.
Then it would need to come back as a new permit
Correct.
I believe so.
for that portion to be added to.
It would come back as a review to assure that the blue line capacity has been met, which would have to go through these same things that we're doing right now.
Otherwise, we can't meet our section 3.09.
No.
And if we decide to, well, it's all right, it's already in there, I don't support that.
Well, what about the argument of everybody up in the hills that already got tile in, that have tile in? When it's all flooding down there, they're adding to the problem then too. They're
Well-
putting their water on other people's ground, so it's the same thing.
If we have that situation, the only places I can see that the water's going is into blue lines.
I mean, I would say if the water is running back, we'll shut the pump off, shut everything off. So it starts the other way where it can handle the capacity.
That's too hard for me to do.
What's that?
That's a tough enforcement. That's a tough enforcement.
I guess one of John's solutions is run a pipe all the way down to Clay Creek. You know, to where there's sufficient capacity there yet in Clay Creek. I'm relying on somebody else because I'm not familiar with the area.
No, it's right. I mean, you're correct on that. There is capacity in Clay Creek. But what about, are you entertaining Casey's
Well,
motion?
So the reason I bring that up is I'm getting a little bit confused about what our authority is. We have a project in front of us that's been proposed. We have a construction recommendation. We don't have anything in here that says run it to the Missouri River or run it to Clay Creek or run it, upstream, whatever. We could get, we can get innovative and start, throwing all kinds of stuff out there that's, Steve may not want to do. Steve, we're here to provide a permit recommendation on the project as proposed.
Yep.
Am I wrong?
No.
No, you're right. And if he doesn't want to take our recommendations to the Board of Adjustment, he doesn't have to.
Who's the Board of Adjustment?
You got that mixed up. No, the Drainage
It's the
Board.
Drainage Board.
Because okay, so right now, we're at number 8. Recommendations from the Drainage Commission into the findings of fact. I have one recommendation. Is that a motion?
The recommendation you've got is the right-of-way.
Well, excuse me, I shouldn't say, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I have one recommendation so far, which was gated, right behind 307th, period, until the capacity in the blue line is achieved.
I will make a motion.
No, we have to go through all these findings first, though. I'm just looking for recommendations. You have one there now. Do you have another recommendation?
Well, the road is, the road maintenance,
Hmm?
the road maintenance issue
Okay,
on that, where they cross and then, cleaning out that,
yep,
that berm on that.
yep, the row agreements.
So yeah, we just have, the beads are out now, we can take that off.
Okay,
Hiccups that would have to come out.
yep. Okay. Okay, so okay, so now I'm gonna go through 310.
Pat, are those, I should ask you, are those tile, open field drains, are they on the administratively approved system, or are they
No.
on the?
They're on the new one, on the unapproved one.
One is and one isn't.
Well, I never approved a surface one, so one is on one side and one's on the other side? Okay, so they both gotta go though.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so 310, it's just to repeat a bit, but a little bit more detail. So drainage into the receiving water courses which do not have capacity to handle additional flow and quantity of the water shall be considered to have an adverse effect. The applicant shall provide sufficient evidence with third-party verification when requested by the Drainage Commission or the Drainage Board. Okay, so we know we don't have capacity in that receiving water course at present time. And that currently it will have an adverse effect, right? Okay. Okay, then the next one is whether drainage is accomplished by reasonably improving and aiding the normal and natural system according to its reasonable carrying capacity, or in the absence of a practical natural drain, a reasonable artificial drain system is adopted. So this could go a little bit to what John is talking about. Do we want to, or should, or is there ability to run a pipe from the lift station as it stands over to Clay Creek? And is that a feasibility? Should I put it down?
Well, I guess
Well, it'd be the same thing if you run it down there and the creek is running backwards, the water's gonna come right back.
Well, if Clay Creek has got capacity,
I think Clay Creek's got it.
Creek runs backward. When you're talking that this lateral does not have capacity, then Clay Creek is running west up into this one. And that happens maybe but this year was the first time since I've been there in 30 years.
like Clay Creek backed up.
Yeah, it runs, yeah. And then it busted out down, further down too by Necklace.
well, the problem you get is when you have these repeated 100 or 500-year events like we had this year. Now we've had 2 of them. Start planning for those as normal is a little scary. My idea was to give Mr. Schmidt the option of, he knows that the gates are going to be locked until there's capacity in the ditch. So is it better to run a pipe on top of the ground to get rid of the water, or is it better to assist in cleaning the ditch out sooner rather than later? And my hope was to give him an option and an encouragement to get the ditch clean. Now, if there's a problem down at where those 3 come together and you're getting siltation in Clay Creek, that's another.
That's the biggest problem, is right there. That fills up, that comes down from the north there and it swirls around and it's like a little sandbar down in there. Into this other ditch.
Is
down
that-
west.
So it doesn't sound like it's a feasible process. We still got to go back to what was stated originally, and that is to gate it until we get the capacity.
Is that Clay Creek? That part is gonna be cleaned out where he's
Yes,
talking
he
about
keeps
there?
working on it. They're coming up, yes, that's currently being cleaned. Yep. So really, on number 2, we're back to just that we have to wait until the capacity is met with the blue line. The amount of water proposed to be drained, we obviously see it. It's up to 12 inches. We don't have the capacity in the blue line to take that water. This is everything south of 307th. Okay?
Would you have any input from homeowners on Clay Creek?
No, not on that piece. That's a designated ditch, so we wouldn't have any. So the design and the physical aspects of the drain. So we know the water proposed. So the physical aspect of the drain, we want the open drains to be plugged. No open drains. And then a gate is what we're talking. Still?
2 gates,
Yep.
just for the safety of too much pressure.
2 gates.
2 gates and no surface.
Where would you put the second gate?
We know the
You
impact.
got the ones coming this way, then you got the other ones coming the other way.
Dogwood, okay.
So if you gated it both places, then there wouldn't get too much, less pressure on one gate.
I'd have to agree with that.
Okay.
Put the 2
Two
gates.
gates. If you're gonna put one down on the intersection, I think you're gonna have to put another one on the road.
Otherwise, you have blowouts.
All right. So with that, with those findings, we know we have an adverse effect on the blue line. We know that our capacity is not in place in the receiving water course. We know we need to get the open drains out. We know, and we would, and and the gate, being everything south of 307th would be gated until the blue line capacity is met. And that would be by the ditch board, basically, the ditch committee that is cleaning out that ditch are the ones that are gonna say it is ready.
Do they have specifications on that
Yep,
ditch, what
Yep.
size, just like we did up?
yep. Yep. They got Pullman and they got 2 contractors bidding it right now to start next spring.
So, walk me down the path then. When the capacity is established by the ditch commission, Steve would have to come in, because we're not granting a permit,
Right,
right?
right, correct,
And so there's still no permit in existence for the
Correct.
operation of that 12-inch.
correct.
All right.
But we are making our recommendations in order to continue to move forward and eventually getting a granting of the permit are get rid of the open drains, a gate until the capacity is met in the blue line, 2 gates until the capacity is met on the blue line, and a row agreement.
I want to make sure the process is clear in my mind too. We're basically saying we have an error. And before we can go to the permit process, we have to fix the error.
Basically, we're saying we have a capacity problem in the blue line and we cannot, we're gonna plug this system until we get the capacity in the blue line fixed.
This is similar to a zoning issue you and I have been discussing.
So we're plugging the blue line, or we're plugging the drainage on the south of 307th until the blue line capacity is met. And that will be verified by the ditch commission, which is the smaller board of that. It's bound lateral number 1, is the ditch commission. And they're organized. That makes sense?
Who has the quarter just to the north of you?
No, I really don't know. You know, Ray?
Gary Hoxie farmed that, I believe, I don't know
He's
who.
east further, he's over east a little further.
I'm assuming
Is
this is
there,
north.
Alex Solberg at one time farmed that.
you're talking this leg right here?
Yeah.
No, south. You see where the 2 pole barns are?
Yeah, that's this place,
Just north of there and to the east.
to the east.
That one, yeah.
That's
That's already permitted.
This is the one that's been
That's the one we're
permitted.
fighting with.
That's got
The lift
administrative,
station
that's
is
your-
back here
Yeah.
on
Okay,
that.
all right.
Yeah. That's the one we're working with. That's the one that got the original permit.
I'm trying to match that.
That's
What,
south.
this piece here, this is,
Okay.
307 right here, John.
See his finger?
Yep.
Okay, so this is been tiled and half of this here been tiled.
Okay,
Is what this is south of 307.
thank you. I'll make a motion to accept the findings of fact, the conclusions of law as proposed.
Second. We have a motion by John Gunderson, second by Casey Cruz. To,
Okay, so this is based on 2 gates, no open drains. Capacity will be verified by the ditch commission and a row agreement with Baldwin Township. Gunderson,
Aye.
Cruz,
aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Bixler,
Aye.
F,
I,
Doomer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I really wish you could have come in here first. This is no fun for us at all, at all. I mean, I know you put a heck of an investment in there, but if we set precedent, we just got problems all over the place.
Pointing to this commission, she says,
Well-
bring it here.
Okay, got 2 more.
Yeah, the next time is 8:20. Our next agenda is Nelson Ag Holdings, Ordell and Merton Gusted Trust. Applicant is requesting a drainage permit to install tile drainage in Yankton County. Said property is legally described as the west 1/2 of the southeast 1/4 and the east half of the southeast 1/4, section 11, township 94 north, range 55 west, hereinafter referred to as Mission Hill North Township, county of Yankton, state of South Dakota. Daryl, are you here to speak on the project?
Welcome to the fire, Daryl.
Hi, I'm Darrell Nelson. You guys have seen me before.
I'm familiar as you are.
Let's see here if I can find your turf. Here we are. Need a bigger map. Keep telling my wife I'm gonna be home in a reasonable hour. Who am I kidding?
Okay. Is this a pointer here or what?
Yep, that's the pointer.
You press the button or what? Okay. This is the Gusted property. This is the Nelson property. There's the blue line in the northeast of the Gusted property. Joint project where all the water is going to go to the blue line. Be basically a big branch going over to mine, and then I can do whatever I want, and the Gusteds will do what they want. We also own this quarter section to the south. There is an old clay tile outlet right into the township ditch, and I would be guessing this clay tile system is somewhere between 60 and 80 years old. I cannot tell what it's draining on my property over here, but there sure is a lot of water coming out of it. We intend to help out Butch Hansen here by some of that water, I believe, flows through his farmyard, and some of it flows through here. We're going to try and get that water back into a pipe down to the blue line, and I intend to help with that. So, any questions?
Off to the far right is Valley View, right?
Valley View would be right here, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, you've got a lot of fall there.
Yeah. It's a big blue line.
I was talking to Hill Country, where the water's coming from.
Yes. Yeah, there's quite a considerable drop right in here. So,
So it'll be that, basically that whole quarter there,
yes.
the 280s will be. I see on the map, it looks like the 6 pulls down into the southern, the border across to the south.
is that old clay one, or is that one you're putting in?
There's an old clay here, but we intend to intercept it somewhere here on Gusteds and bring it down, because we got to bring one through here to get this water. We got to make a hill cut kind of right through there to get it down to there.
You're showing a 6 on the map right in this area.
Going through the across
I've got to
across
see.
the road.
I'm not sure you wanted to. Unless there was that clay.
That's a, no, I didn't mean to, I don't know, that must have
It's
been
not
a
across
pink
the
mark,
road.
yeah.
It ends at, he's starting it at his fence line.
I guess I drew my side of the 80, I guess I got a little sloppy with the pen there. And then I didn't catch it until now. Paul drew this side, Paul Gusted, he's not here. He branched some into the 8. There might need to be another line put in parallel to this drop here, but sometimes the guy needs a little latitude when you're out there in the fields. You may want to change slightly from the plans, if you know what I mean, so.
So you've got 2 outlets into that blue line.
Yes.
So you're gonna try and hook that clay tile into this
Yeah,
tile, so it won't be
Yeah.
surface water coming up and going back down again?
yeah, we'd like to get it out of that ditch, it'd do everybody a favor.
Yeah.
I didn't put it there, but it's my water, so.
You'll have those outlets,
I'm not that old, John.
you'll have those outlets rocked or protected.
I guess I haven't been down in that ditch to look to see what it's gonna require. I can't see the rock is gonna do any good, because the rock will probably wash back out of there if you get a heavy rain, so. I've normally not done it, try and get it down fairly low to the fluid line, and you're not gonna have a
Put it
problem.
right, you
Yeah.
just said something about a real.
The hillside going into it is fairly steep, yeah, but the blue lines typically are, you know,
You'll run the pipe right down to them.
yeah, to the blue line, yes.
If I remember right, you'd have taken off a good horse to get across that in a hurry. That creek down here. at the
Yeah,
block.
yeah, it's fairly wide. There's a bridge on it there. It's not a culvert under the road, there's an old bridge.
Now, in your application, you show a 5-inch outlet, a 6-inch outlet, and an 8-inch.
I believe I'm only showing 2 8-inch outlets.
Those are, it's only an 8-inch outlet, that's how many feet of the 5 and the 6s and the 8s.
Okay,
Those are the lines I'd be burying in the field. I typically, in the smaller lines, use a lot of 5.
okay. So I'm just gonna put down 2 8-inch outlets.
Yeah, 2-inch, 8-inch
Oh,
outlets.
I'm sorry, that's supposed to, no, I didn't catch that.
Maybe my plan's a little too detailed, I don't know.
No,
No.
don't worry about that.
She, she.
About 30,000 feet, you got it, it's all total.
That's a rough estimate, yeah.
So you're giving each other your easements to
Yeah.
take care of future down the road. Are you vesting your stuff or registering your stuff as you've been going along? Or have you been like me, haven't registered any of it yet?
Can you actually
You
register?
can go in and,
Not this one, but you can register it on the deeds.
Register the easements, yes, yeah. I'm a little behind, but as long as I don't lose my desk, I'm tend to doing it, yeah.
Okay, does anybody have any other questions for Darrell? Hearing none,
Thank you.
is there anybody else here that would want to speak in favor of the project? Steve?
I'm in favor of it, but the only problem that I have, now his water, where's that water go to? You know where it goes to? It comes right down to that ditch one we was talking about before.
Comes down to,
I don't wanna stop him, but I'm just saying, that's why I said that if you're don't want me to pump into the ditch, we gotta stop everybody up the hills to stop bringing the water down.
This particular
It's
one
just the
doesn't
same
go.
thing. You know what I mean?
I see what you're saying in
Yeah.
principle.
Yeah.
And I would like to respond to that. We've already got tried and true tested tile line going into that same ditch for 80 years. And if you follow that stream downstream, I own land halfway in between there. And
I don't own the land that the water flows through, but I drive by it all the time. And Carl Schenk owns the land, and he farms through the same blue line every year. So the water
Is that
from the
the,
tile line, I would contend, is absorbed or evaporated before it ever gets to that ditch,
Is that
under a non-flood condition.
is that the white ground?
Yeah,
Yes,
here it is right here.
I've never seen.
No, don't get me wrong, I'm not against it at all.
There's a lot of gravel-based soils down in that, once you get down into the alluvial plain down there. You can see a lot of center pivots down there. It's good topsoil, but gravel-based. That's why it's just disappearing before it ever gets there.
It's flowing underneath.
Well, it disappears
It's
somewhere. along the way.
percolating in.
Okay, let's get back.
So you're following that back up, Pat? Or is that?
Yeah. Oh, where was I?
You lost me too.
West End, Mission Hill. Okay, this is it. Any public comment then? Any more?
Anybody else? Okay, is there anybody here that would speak in opposition to the project? Okay. Hearing none, we'll close the public comment portion of the application and we'll discuss amongst the board.
Go through the findings real quickly.
So the flow or the quantity of water to be drained will not overburden the water course into which the water will drain. So we've got we have the slope and we have the greater than 2-foot capacity in that creek, correct? Steve brings up an interesting point, but we know at that area there that we've got the capacity for that stream. Okay. The drainage will not flood or adversely affect the land of the lower proprietors, or in the case of impediment of the drainage, will not flood or adversely affect upstream landowners. Correct? No? There's no impact, is there?
No.
Easements will be granted where required. So we have an easement that has been completed, correct?
Yes.
All of them that are done. The drainage will not negatively affect agriculture productivity. Right? Will not? The land that is to be drained is and will remain rural in character.
Yes.
When the land is to be drained, the presumption and factors set forth in SD CL 4610A 20 will be satisfied, meaning that lower proprietors will not be adversely affected. Adequate precautions will ensure the roadways will not negatively be impacted.
Yes.
We don't have that issue, do we? So, any recommendations? Okay. So then
I
for
guess,
for 310,
Hang on.
you know, that the outlets would be maintained and rocked or whatever needs to be done. to
erosion control.
Erosion control on those.
Okay.
Just to clarify, Pat, the gusted portion would have been an administrative permit, wouldn't it?
Yes.
If it
Yes.
wasn't the fact they were tying them together. Okay,
Yep.
I just,
Yep. Number one, the drainage in the receiving water courses. This one has sufficient capacity.
Yes.
Reasonably improving or aiding the normal and natural drain system of the drainage and its reasonable carrying capacity is being met here.
Yes.
The requirements have. The amount of water proposed to be drained, 2 8-inch outlets would not overburden that water course.
No.
the physical aspects of the drain. They meet the engineering standards and the land grant universities. Plus, this gentleman has installed them a few times before, so that appears to be appropriate.
Yes. With erosion control.
Excuse me?
With the erosion protection.
Okay, yep. Impact of the sustained flows
Going in the blue line.
with 2 8-inchers. Yep. With erosion control. Okay.
Okay, anybody else have any other discussion, or?
I move we adopt the proposed findings of fact, conclusions of law, including the erosion control.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion by John Gunderson and a second by Tom Bixler. Roll call vote.
Okay. Approval of the Nelson Gusted permit. Gunderson,
Aye.
Bixler,
Aye.
Epp,
Aye.
Hanson,
Aye.
Cruz,
Yes.
Doomer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Could I ask for a clarification on the erosion control? Is this something that's been done on previous permits, or?
We're-
I haven't been down to the blue line to see what it's actually like down there. But
We've had some of them back cutting up, just from the outlet discharge into the stream, or into the blue line. If you get some back cutting up the pipe, just make sure you control that we don't get any excessive
yeah, I've
erosion.
never seen that being an issue before.
Good.
Usually, if the problem, you put rock in there, you can't get brome to grow back on the rock. And truthfully, brome's the best protector there is.
That's erosion control. So if you get the brome to grow before it cuts out of there, good for you.
We do that just on virtually
Almost all of them.
all of
Okay.
them.
Most of them are like, I'll get back up here. Most of the erosion control have been, like Daryl said, it's just flowing across grass.
Yep.
But I have had a couple that we've gone in and gotten some granite rock because it was coming out and then dropping a ways and then going into a culvert. And we would get the granite rock and put that there to keep that from continuing to cut the soil. And we weren't using field rock. We'd make them get the granite rock and put that in there. And it'd be like 3 to,
You never know what's gonna happen until trial and error too.
Yep.
You may not solve the
Yep.
problem. There may not be a problem, or
Yep.
you may not solve it.
So-
Where you're down the road, till you figure out what's gonna hold or what isn't.
and so but the object is that that's a moving target on that part too. We do expect erosion control. If it needs to continue to be improved, it needs to be improved. What we're looking at, like you say, most of them have been, the blue lines are deep enough that they're just going right into the creek, and we're not having to drop. I can give you a very good example is the one on Highway 81 up there on Midway. That one is dropping almost 2 feet. That's an 18-inch culvert coming out, or an 18-inch outlet coming out, and it's dropping 2 feet into Mud Creek. And he's got a great big rock pile that it's falling into.
Normally, I try to discharge close to the flow line as I
Yep.
can to prevent that.
Yep. So that's what we're watching
not
for.
gonna-
So
not gonna be down.
So that's what we watch for. So most of them that I have seen, the erosion control hasn't been necessary, but some of them are.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the time being 8:35, our next applicant is Bookish Farms LLC. The applicant is requesting a drainage permit to install tile drainage in Yankton County. Said property is legally described as the north one half of the south one half, the northeast 1/4 of the southwest one, of the south one half, the north one half, and of the northeast 1/4. Section 23, Township 94 North, Range 57 West, and the south one half of the south one half of the northeast 1/4 of Section 23, Township 94 North, Range 57 West, and 60 acres north of the railroad, southeast section, southeast 1/4 of the south, Section 23, Township 94 North, Range 57 West, hereinafter referred to as Ziska North Township, County of Yankton, State of South Carolina. Jason, right? You're here to speak about this and tell us what you got going.
I'm Jason Kokish. I guess what we got going on is what we're gonna be, our piece is actually this 80 right here, and then we farm this 40. And then Nedveds have this 60, so we're gonna tie everything together. The blue line comes right through here. There's no culvert through the road right there. The road ditch is completely full of dirt. So I guess going by zoning ordinance and that, if you were to dump the water here, would actually cause an issue. The culvert that crosses the road is right here. That catches all of this surface water. We'd be dumping a 8-inch tile here, running it over, up, and we have a low spot right here and a low spot right here. Running it up the waterways. Then we'd also be running 6-inch lines up one side of the waterway and then 4-inch lines on the other. So it's basically waterways with two.
So you're gonna come from that blue line that's in there, you're gonna bring a tile on either side of that down?
Yep, and come
And
over
over.
this way and dump it right here.
How does that water get to the blue line then?
Then that runs across the pasture right here to get to the blue line. Got the okay from McDonald's. Had to have them sign an easement, they signed that. They're okay with it. And Schwartz has this right here continuing, and I talked to him a few days ago and he was fine with that also.
Who do you have easements with, Jason?
I believe with Laddie and McDonald's.
So we have one with, the one in between?
Nedveds, no, I guess you didn't have me get one from them.
Oh, we got, oh, that's right, Nedved's got blue line, excuse me, sorry. Yeah. We didn't need Nedved's because he has a blue line. That's the, so,
Once it gets in McDonald's, it's into the blue
and
line.
then McDonald was the surface, so I wanted that to be. So, I needed an easement from Mr. Kokis, he's up here, to run across this gentleman's ground, which is Nedved,
Novak.
or Novak, to get to this blue line. Okay, and then he doesn't need one, because he's in this, he's got a blue line, so I don't need an easement from him to run that. I needed it to this point. And then it's running down. Then, at this point, we needed that surface easement, and that came from McDonald. That
But
makes
you're gonna have
sense?
pipe in the ground, right?
Mhm.
You're gonna have, even though he's got a blue line, you're not
Yes,
really-
that all gonna be piped there.
That's all gonna be piped
It's,
on either
it's gonna be
side.
piped to the blue line or piped to the patch.
It's gonna be
Pipe.
piped to right here.
Whose ground is that?
Site plan.
Nedveds.
No,
Well, then
on
we
the
would need
south,
a,
south side.
McDonald.
South side is McDonald's.
Casey,
McDonald's
there's your erosion.
McDonald's is surface.
yeah. But in Edmonds, we got tile entering and
Mhm.
there's more proposed tile on that ground too. So we need easements from Medford too, wouldn't we?
He's got blue line.
Not with a
No,
tile.
going, no.
Why are you running tile on both sides of the blue line and not utilizing the blue line?
Cause if you would dump the water, you're saying if I would dump the water, that's what I mean. I could come in and get a permit to dump the water right here and it would run across, cause part of this is farmed and then this ditch really doesn't, like I said, this blue line isn't really even accurate because there isn't a culvert. That isn't the way the water flows. There's no culvert under the road right here.
That's correct.
Why is it a blue line?
Because before the railroad came through, that would be the way the water naturally went,
Where's the railroad?
right here.
Okay.
All those little lots there, that's Yellow Shed. Yellow Shed.
But now you show tile in Nedvids, there's like a waterway,
Yeah, there's
two of them there.
there's three waterways that go through this whole works. and we're putting lines on each side of the waterways is what we're doing.
But you're bringing water from
Your ground
your
through
ground through
there. You
those.
gotta
so
have
you
an
need-
easement, but why wouldn't you need an easement for that, Pat?
He's got,
I think he should have one on the east side too.
That's fine, I don't,
I just feel to safeguard yourself so that
Yeah,
if these lines need service, that you cannot be denied servicing those lines. I guess
yeah, if
that's
that
where I
would
was
change
going.
hands and you don't have an easement on it, you got pipe that isn't into a blue line.
and I don't, would that be, we could get it.
Yeah, I mean, everybody here is all on board with this.
I can
It's
get
just
it.
your
We can- we
good
can get it.
housekeeping.
you're actually
Save
gonna be doing
yourself.
tiling and Nedveds there too.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I can get the, so I can get the, I can get the net bed easement? Okay. We'll do that.
Just good housekeeping.
So we got Novak and we got McDonald, now get net bed. Okay?
Yeah, that's,
I don't know, I suppose, because then the other reason we're running an 8-inch line through here for some added capacity, right here is Elvin's. And if he would tie on or do whatever, we got extra capacity there for him.
But he
planning,
would have
planning
to
for the
come-
future.
He would have to,
May I use your pointer? Let's see, you push the button on
between the ears.
between the ears. Well,
You broke it.
Alvin, they're expensive.
Oh,
Oh, don't do that.
you gotta push it up. Right here is a rock pile. And right there's a wet area. We have a drain tile running from there, well, actually running up a little ways and then back down over to here. And it dumps onto our ground into, not a ditch, but a waterway. And I proposed to Jason to go from the end of this and tie into his line going through. That would eliminate all of the water that's bothering both of us. Correct, Jason?
When was that tile installed?
I don't know. Long time ago.
before you were around.
No, I was the one who installed it, but I can't remember when it was. It was in the,
It's plastic pipe.
yeah, it's plastic, it's Bridgestone pipe. And it's only a 5-inch, it's not a pattern. The field isn't pattern tile, it's just a low spot. I got lost here. Right there, you can see that rock pile there, and it's just, it's a problem. We tiled that out, it did wonderful things there by the rock pile, but it didn't help me out where my alfalfa is on the east side of Yanushek there. And it doesn't help him out either.
It just moved your problem from one spot to another, basically.
Basically, yes, basically.
If you're gonna do that, you've gotta come in and get a permit.
Get a permit.
Right.
From, I just got the letter in the mail, and we were gonna do something about it, but it never materialized as far as
Okay.
with me.
That,
No,
You'll
that
need-
was-
you'll-
It's 608 feet from my line, my 5-inch line, to the fence, Jason's, or that's Laddie's fence?
Mhm.
Laddie's fence.
Well, that's something you'll need to come in and get a permit for,
All right, yeah,
to hook into
I'm,
this and.
But with the blue line being there, because I mean, the whole reason this got all confused is because our 80 here isn't touching the blue line, where if we would have had the 120 that we farmed that 120, from what I gathered, then this wouldn't have been an issue.
Well, on that Edvig ground, you still need a permit there. You still need to come in for us.
Yeah,
Easements.
but it would have just been an
would have
administrative.
been administrative. administration.
No, not with the Nedved ground up there.
When you're crossing somebody else's ground.
Oh,
Well,
If he had outletted, let's put it this way, if he had come down, if Nedved came in for a permit, Nedved's the middle one, correct?
No, he's the south.
Nedved's the south.
Okay, Novak's the middle one?
Yep.
Yeah.
If Novak alone had come in for a permit, and that, put it into that blue line and grid tiled that whole, what is that, 40 acres?
mm-hmm.
That'd been administrative.
Well, but the way his plan is drawn out, Pat, is
No, I know that.
He's
The way
coming
that
down.
is. I'm just trying to make clear what would have been administrative and what wouldn't have.
Again, just, Jason, just real quickly, Jason's situation, when he came in, the first time I looked at this, I thought Cocos owned this and this. And then I started looking at it, and I realized, no, he doesn't. He doesn't own this parcel, so I gotta get this through an or a public hearing. And then we were gonna tile this one too, but here's what could have happened. Let's say that this individual comes in and says, I'm gonna tile here. Okay, now this individual wants to tile too. They could have come in and got their permit administratively too, correct?
Yes,
Under their own name,
for the west half,
for
yeah.
just this
If they
whole
would dump
thing.
into the blue line,
if they dump,
Because they all got a blue line.
but they're showing their tiles
not going to that
not
blue
going
line.
to that blue line.
No, it's going to this one.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's coming across.
And it's going
McDonald's.
across the road.
And it's coming across.
So then that's when all this kicks in. And that's another issue then. Once you start going down that,
Right.
across the road there, then it kicked in too.
And like I say, it's impossible for that water to run that way anyway.
So-
One exception, if there's no culvert in that road and you've got the railroad embankment there, and apparently been there for 100 years, then we'd get into a capacity issue and we still would have been in,
Yeah.
And that's why we landed in here.
yeah.
This, now, what if the Novaks come in a year from now? They gotta go hearing, don't they?
Yep.
Even though he's dumping into the blue line.
He's not.
I would be dumping right into the blue line, Pat.
Not according to the map.
There.
It's not on your,
It's not on your property.
It ends before your property.
Yeah.
I realize you got a creek up there with those, you can see the trees and everything, but according to what we have to go by, it ends in Laddie's. You can see right where it ends there.
It does not go all the way to the fence?
No.
Not according to what we've got to go by.
All right, what do I have to do then if I wanna, I just found out about this, that, when I got the letter here.
Can we tack his since we're in here now, can we tack his 600-foot piece onto this
We
project?
don't have an application from you.
Application, and there's got to be notifications go out.
You sure?
All right,
I mean, you're a commission, you're making recommendations. Can we make a recommendation that he gets an easement and that he gets the site plan and he has all that completed by the time we go to the drainage board?
Are you gonna try and do this fall?
We'd like to, at least get the mains in, so we're out of, so we'd be out of net, since we got the green light from Nedved's, if we'd get our mains in, that way we're out of there,
We're just adding one. Are we changing the outlet size?
No,
Are we changing anything else?
no, cause that's why I figured putting that big a pipe in there, and like I said, he's already got an outlet right here.
Pat?
Just a second. It all has to go through, you're a commission that can you can do that. If you don't want to, then I can bring it back in later. Pocus is gonna put this in whether he's participating or not. What's one of your objectives? To try and get as many people as possible upstream to participate, isn't it?
Yeah.
While you're doing this?
Our objective?
I've always thought that was one of them. Todd, he's always said, make sure we're expanding our size up to make sure that if anybody upstream on any of these operations wants to be involved, we'd have enough capacity to make that work.
But doesn't it
This
go
is
back,
this is actually on water department.
does it not go back to the aspect of having a permit?
Yeah.
That's what I,
How long does it take?
This
to get
isn't
a permit,
installed.
Pat?
This isn't installed though.
But you still,
it's,
Basically, we're just moving his outlet 600 feet. Well, we're eliminating his outlet.
Yeah, that's right.
You're moving his outlet about 3/4 of a mile.
600 feet.
So Pat, so this is 600 feet. So the next one comes in at 6,000 feet.
An additional?
Yeah.
I don't care.
If Alvin came in tonight and said, well, let's pattern tile that quarter.
I don't
we'd
care.
say, you know, yeah, we encourage people
Plan.
to plan.
Oh, but I still think don't we have a burden to have a public hearing on this?
Yep. Because he's not in that, he's not listed there.
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to do that, but I think as far as, again, precedent setting.
What's fit for the goose is
Yeah,
fit for the
damn
gander.
right, that's right.
Okay, see, that, my tile was installed before your, whatever ordinances or whatever was.
But it's 608 feet from where you want it to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're making a change in there, so you're
It's-
making a change, so we've gotta follow the ordinances.
And the ordinance says I have to have a public hearing on that, because it's not an administrative permit. And so, yeah, it's a little dink, 600 feet. But what if it was 6,000? And somebody wanted to add on up above that? And we didn't have the opportunity for anybody to come here and offer any comments, it's public, you know, the public administrative hearing.
Okay, so I have to do what, if we're timely?
Go see him. Go see him next rainy day.
Yep, we have to start, you have to do your own application. You don't get it sized appropriately, and you have to do your own application.
Come in and see Pat.
So Alvin will just have to apply from going from here to here,
Yep.
Yes.
You'll need a,
but is mine gonna have to get approved first?
we can approve
Yours,
yours.
we can approve yours without
Yeah.
us.
We're not gonna add his tonight.
Only thing, we need an easement with net bids.
Yeah.
That's the only thing we're
For
missing.
you.
We're missing from yours.
And he'll need to have an easement from Laddie, because that blue line doesn't go all the way to the fence, he's gotta cross a few hundred feet of or 50 feet of Laddie's, right?
Well, actually, Laddie's is coming into,
Nedveds.
Where you got him from?
Isn't 14, 23, 100, 400 Laddie Novaks?
No, it's Nedved.
Oh, that's Nedved?
No, Nedved's the missing one.
Nedved's the one.
Nedved's down there.
Yes.
400 is Laddie's.
He wants to come into Laddie's. So you'd have to have an easement from Laddie and your permit application.
Well, wait a minute now. I have to have the same thing that I'm making Jason do. He's just the same as Jason. He's coming in off a blue line, so I gotta have Laddie's plus Novak's plus McDonald to put Novak
Yeah.
in there. Just like I have to
Why?
have Laddie plus Novak plus
So Alvin,
McDonald.
You're
Alvin
talking-
can't get an easement
You're talking
from Novak to dump into a blue line.
I have to get it just like I do for Kokish, right? I have to get an easement from this individual.
McDonald.
This is who?
And
You
Laddie.
gotta get an easement because you're coming across here.
Okay,
That, you have to have an easement from Laddie Novak.
okay,
Yep.
Then you're gonna bring lines across this property,
All the way up.
all the way down here without a blue line. You gotta have an easement from this person.
Nedved.
Then, this is Nedved. Then you're gonna dump it onto McDonald, open, and cross it down here to a blue line. You need an easement from him to do that,
okay, so we got this one,
to bring
this
it.
one. Now, this one, okay,
This one, you need an easement to get to here.
and that's it.
That's it.
But that'd be just an administrative deal. He shouldn't have to do it.
Nope. It's a different property owner.
Cross and properties.
I've got a
But that's his application.
That's his
That's
application,
his
not
app,
yours.
not yours. I've got a neighbor that's got almost the same issue, except the blue line goes 50 feet further into the fence. So his neighbors could tile into the blue line and he didn't have any real say in it. And it's, you know, the blue line, and I've said this a couple times tonight, the blue lines were not written by the hand of God. Should it have gone up further? Probably. But we can't change it.
On McDonald's there, is that going into some sort of a ditch there where it crosses that, is that a pasture?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a some sort of a ditch there, or is that gonna flood his pasture?
It drops off. I mean, that isn't gonna be an issue.
He has an easement for that.
Yeah.
And that is an unorganized township, so, and we have a roll through the county with that. And then that's the same issue erosion wise too.
Okay,
And and actually someone must have cleaned this out right in front of that culvert because there's a pile of field rocks all the way around. So it gets down to the bottom of the culvert and then the rest of this ditch is completely full of dirt.
there's a big culvert underneath the railroad there.
Yeah, going right here.
2 or 3 cement culverts. Is it 2 or 3, Jason?
Cause this one's a steel one, that's like maybe a 3-footer, something like that.
Well, you have cement ones all along that railroad, because it's further down closer to, it would be west of Yanushek there that there's cement culverts.
Yeah.
So
And
I just thought that was cement culverts going under the railroad itself.
And that could be, I never crawled out there. It flows, once it goes through the steel one, then it flows through something. I never crawled out there to
There's,
see.
like I said, there's 2 or 3 and they're about this big in diameter. They're huge, and there's some cement.
Okay.
If there is erosion in McDonald's, you're responsible for it. And you will have that as part of the findings of fact. Okay. The reason we say this stuff is to try and protect you. Because Don's a nice guy, but you don't know who's gonna buy it.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Jason on this project?
I got a question on your wetland determination up on the west side of that. Is that a tree track or a farmstead or north there?
Right west, Janusek.
No, up on the Kokish ground itself.
Okay,
Right up
excuse me.
there, west side of those trees, there's a wetland basin there. And there is
It's a PC.
Oh, it is PC, sorry, that's what I was looking for. Didn't see it.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And that's already ditched?
No.
That's got a flowing, you're gonna tile then right through that?
Yeah, you can see the ditch is right there.
Okay, anybody else have any questions for Jason? If not, we'll ask for other public input. We may come back in. Is there any other public comment in favor of this project? Hearing none, is there any public comment opposed to this project? Hearing none, we'll close the public portion and go to board discussion on this.
Want to go over the findings?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the flow, the quantity of water to be drained will not overburden the water course into which the water will be drained. This is based on what the application is in front of you now, so that would be agreeable, will not overburden.
Yes.
The drainage will not flood or adversely affect the land of Lola proprietors, or in the case of impediment to drainage, will not flood or adversely affect upstream landowners.
It's gonna put more water on that pasture, but he signed off on that,
Yep.
easement on that, so.
It's upstream. We have the slope on that pasture to go into the blue line. Easements will be granted where required. So I have the one more, which is the what easement? It's the Nedved.
Yeah, that concerns me a little bit. If we allow the permits to go through without having all of the easements in place?
We don't approve permits, we only advise the drainage board.
Technicality. Do we approve the permit application moving forward to the Drainage Commission without a complete set of easements? We haven't passed?
Have set a
Part
precedent.
of the reason,
As long as they're in the package before they go to the Drainage Commission?
right,
Yes.
All right.
the reason this has worked in Yankton County and not in other counties is we go through and are willing to sit down and listen and talk to people and identify the issues because we've either educated ourselves or we kind of know what we're doing, which is sometimes questionable. But, so that when they get an application, you know, there's rigidly defined areas of doubt and uncertainty, one of my favorite quotes. And we make sure, hey, wait a minute, there were supposed to be easements there. That's our job.
And you require it. I can't move forward. They cannot go to the drainage board until this easement is there.
So that,
It's a requirement. I can't, he won't go forward until that's done. And that's one of your requirements in your findings. I can't let you go forward without, that'd be a derelict on my duty then, if I do it, I'm not doing that job right. That's a requirement to move forward to the drainage board. So we can't even advertise it until that easement's in my hand.
Yeah, so just to be clear, we're gonna need a easement between Kokish, well, Kokish and Laddie have got an easement. We're gonna need a
Easement from Laddie to Nedved, or from Kokish to Nedved.
and Laddie to them.
Yep.
We'll need two easements, or, yeah.
Okay. All right, so land will not be negatively impacted? The agriculture ground will not be negatively impacted? Is that agreeable?
yes,
The land affected will remain rural in character?
yes,
Agreeable? Will it meet the specifications of 46A-10A-20A, which is the overburdening?
Yeah.
Adequate precautions to ensure the roadways will not be negatively impacted, which is the road agreement, which is the road requirement out of the county, which I'm working with Brian on, which is very simple from his part. And then erosion, correct?
If he has any problems with erosion in McDonald's, he'll have to.
It would be the outlet north, that before it goes to the culvert. That's the one that the road requirement would be at.
But he's also responsible for any erosion issues in McDonald's too.
Okay. Okay. Adequate, let's see any of the recommendations. Okay, 310. So the drainage, does the receiving water course have sufficient capacity? It's Martin Creek, so I guess it does, yes. Whether the drainage is accomplished by reasonably improving or aiding the normal natural drainage system of its reasonable carrying capacity. An artificial drain is adopted, is this correct? Met the specifications? The amount of water proposed to be drained, it's, what are the outlets? 8?
yep.
One of them?
Just
It's just one, isn't it? 1 8-inch? Okay. The physical aspects of the drain meet the requirements,
Yeah.
is what we have. The impact of the sustained flows, it's an 8-inch, and it's only one, and it's Martin Creek, okay. And being, the design and other physical aspects of the drain mean that we look for them to meet the SDSU, NDSU handbook type of specifications. It's tile drainage, that's what this will meet. Okay. All right, with those findings, any other discussion or recommendations? Okay.
Okay, any discussion? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion.
John makes a motion to accept the
Findings of fact.
stipulate findings of facts.
I'll second it.
Who made the first one?
John. Tom Bixler seconded. Roll call vote when you're ready, Pat.
Okay, for the Copus Farm, with the requirements being listed here, regarding easements and road agreement and erosion control, Gunderson,
Aye.
Bixler,
Aye.
F,
Yep.
Cruz,
Yes.
Hanson,
Aye.
Doomer.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay.
Do we have any public comment? See if anybody signed my sheet. Nope, we're excused.
You know, motion to adjourn? Well, I guess this, you know, tonight this brings up an issue, and we've talked about it before. Are we gonna have to consider these drainage ways that are these public, not public, but private established tax districts? We're gonna be overburdening them. Are we gonna just have to limit that to people who are already part of that project?
I don't think- It's a good conversation.
Right now, you don't have authority. So your authority, how would I say, you don't have the authority to say whether or not we feel that a ditch would have, you don't have the authority to make new people go onto that ditch listing, so to speak, become members, become levied members. What we're working with Turkey Valley is how to establish that authority and how to make that so that currently the statute's set up that it's boundaried. If you have a boundary on the canal or on the ditch, you got levied. And if you had 30 acres on it or you had 100 acres on it, we levied what you boundaried on that ditch. That's how they currently did them all. When I went and visited with Pier, they said, if you're going to start and expand those, they consider that to be a new tax. And so then we'd have to go through the tax process in which it's the public hearing and we're actually implementing a new tax for those individuals. But today, Mr. Hanson comes and he's got a lawyer and his lawyer says, no, if all the people that want to participate in this watershed, if you had 61% of them sign a petition saying that they will participate and pay the increased tax, we don't have to go through the tax base. So there's still some lessons to be learned. I don't know how we're gonna, Turkey Valley's the one to watch. They're about 2 years ahead of us, and they are the ones to see how that works, because what they want to do is take their 100 or 22 members and make 220 members, because they've got tile drainage going as far out as 2 miles away.
Yeah. Well, you know, and I understand that, but what I'm saying is, okay, take the ditch by us, that's the Lesterville
Yep.
drainage ditch number 1, I guess.
Yep.
Those people paid, those landowners paid and were assessed fees and whatnot to build that ditch.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering in my mind if we shouldn't be limiting the drainage into that, since that's a private ditch or somewhat of a private ditch, just to the people who initially put into that. Until we can get some, otherwise what happens, and the one up by us, John.
No, my question is not one of opposition. My question is, what do the articles of incorporation of the ditch district say?
It's public under the current, because when I looked it up, because you're under the Lesterville one. It's an
If it was a private ditch, I agree with you. But if it's a public ditch, then it's just the capacity of the ditch, and then you need to reassess.
Yeah. Well-
And that's the issue.
And I'm not just talking about Lesterville one, I'm talking, I didn't realize we had all these laterals and everything else down in here.
Oh, we're busy. We got some that have crushed, I mean, we haven't done anything for 20 years. We haven't done, some of these ditches haven't been touched since 72. So we've got culverts that are crushed, we've got gates that don't work. We got a dilapidated system down there in which we have people that are, you know, getting caught in the middle of this. But in order to expand those things, we have realized that our best effort is spent getting the ditch cleaned out first with what monies we have, get them back and going, and then follow the Turkey Valley example. If it became what you're thinking, that you would convert your public ditch, your Lesterville ditch, to a private ditch, that's a different process. I don't know how we can do that. I think there's a way, there's a mechanism, there always is, but it currently is not.
I guess, you know, we probably have to change ordinances, somewhat our ordinances somehow. But that would encourage, if we only allowed the original applicants, or the ones that were along those levees, to drain in there, that would make it much more palatable to start a bigger tax district and tax anybody.
Oh,
that's
just
draining.
those individuals drain. We take a look at it.
In the case of the one up by us, I mean, the original members paid for that ditch.
They haven't touched.
They're getting no benefits out of it because everybody else is draining into it.
Yeah, but they haven't touched that ditch since, that ditch hasn't, that's one of the worst ones. Wasn't that almost like 68? I think the last time they did any work in that ditch was 1968.
Yeah, we cleaned a bridge in 80-something. But you're saying it's a disadvantage because to be a,
Now they're tiling all the water into it, it's coming down in there, and my driveway's underwater.
And you got them also dumping water over in Bonham County too,
Yeah.
into the creek, which
So-
eventually goes through there.
The original,
Right.
agreement.
I think the ditches need to get reestablished and get them rolling again, and then start, and then do your
Is
movements.
that an association just like ours, the Turkey Valley Ditch
Yes,
Association?
Yeah.
yes,
And it was never terminated, it just died
yes.
when inactive?
They just went inactive.
So then you have to follow like we did and
Reactivate.
reactivate it. Because we have guys that are a mile away or whatever that years ago, 20 years ago, tiled in, and then they became a member, and their land is being levied with the rest of ours that are right alongside of it, but their only connection is that half mile of tile they got to it. And they're not squawking about
Paying into it.
paying into it.
Well, then they're paying for the maintenance of it.
Correct.
Craig, if I might add, I liked one of the original proposals that the state of South Dakota had, and that is if my water flows onto Jason's and that flows onto yours, and you have the blue line on it, if your water flows into the blue line from your area, you should be in that tax district, especially if it's a man-made ditch. I'm not in favor of having a creek taxed like that, but a man-made ditch is a different game. So if I run into your, if water flows off of mine even in an open ditch onto yours and then into the blue line, then I should pay taxes just like you, not at different rates, but at the same rate, because I've been getting benefits from pouring it onto you,
Yeah.
and you're the one that's gonna just pay for this, what do you call it? Ditch district, whatever.
Yeah.
The maintenance of the ditch.
Everybody who benefits should pay.
Everybody who
And-
benefits into that.
We have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Well,
See,
that's
our-
what I'm trying to figure out how to
I
make
like
it
to
work.
hear that, John.
We're just trying to figure out how to make it work.
Yeah, our,
Yeah.
our ditch, our man-made section is roughly 2,200 acres that border and pay into it for maintenance. But we had it engineered, we had Bose, engineering come and look at the topography of the ground, and it's roughly 6,500 acres that all funnel into that from north, east, and west. And all of those are receiving benefits, and now what we're seeing with the improved tiling is sustained flows. Even, sure, yeah, 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inch of rain, you're gonna have it come across the top. It's gonna happen. But it's that 6 weeks later.
Yeah, what I'm getting at is like, it's gonna get to be a problem down by you guys there.
I mean,
As we get-
I said that a long time ago.
we get more and
All
more-
these people up in the hills, they need to be paying,
For
not
me.
much, a quarter an acre, whatever, they don't take much. We're taking all their water all the time, and, help clean that out.
Well, Steve, that's, for example, I tile, and I don't put a drop of water on you. Now, I was teasing Ray last spring that I'd go over to Marindal and throw a rubber duck in for him. But, if we get 10 inches of rain, it isn't gonna matter whether it's tile or not.
Well, that's why I say when Nelson was, when his tile is running, yeah, for the most part, when it gets down to that white ground, it's gone. In a normal year. But when we get a big rain, his water's coming down, just on ours down there. And it's doing the same thing what my tile's gonna do. Same thing.
6 point.
I think Pat had a good point before, not specifically in reference to this, but it isn't what can happen with 500-year floods or that. It's if there's a possibility that it could happen, don't back yourself into a corner.
Hi,
Well-
Chris, it's time. I'm ready.
Oh,
Okay.
he's a ranger, right. That's why we look at the capacity of the blue line. The question is, how far down stream do we go? That's the issue that we normally deal with.
And that's what Paul's bringing up.
Yeah, and this is something Ray and I have talked about a lot. You get down in the bottom and it turns into a braided stream. The water's going to come down. Are you better off having tile where you've got a place where rain can go and store it for a while? It slows it down, in my opinion.
I think if you wanted to stop flooding in certain areas, you should almost make it a requirement to tile that. That would, you don't have to deal with the surface water in its entirety. Some of it is gonna soak through and then run through later on. That comes, Jason, how long does it take? About a month or what? How long does it take for the water to filter through 3 feet of dirt?
Well, I
And
mean,
get
like,
into a
on
tile.
that, we got pretty good slope, but say you got, a 0.1 slope, you're probably looking at 3/8 of an inch every 24 hours.
Explain that, 3/8 of an inch what?
Per acre. Per acre that's tiled, you'd probably be getting 3/8 of an inch infiltration every 24 hours. You get something with 1% slope, little lighter soil, you probably could be getting 3/4 of an inch.
Yeah, it all depends on your soil
It's
consistency.
a way of slowing down the flow.
Oh, sure,
Get
it's
it done,
the
but,
sponge
I
effect.
think everybody should be treated the same, whether you're an upstream or downstream type of situation.
One of the things you got to remember too is that on this ditch business, like we're experiencing, and then now Steve's facing and everything else is, I don't know what we were expecting. I mean, we didn't do anything for 30 years, 40 years. We got some of these ditches we didn't do anything with since 1970, 1968. I would like us, even on your ditch, to get it going again, and then that gives you the opportunity to start saying, what do we need to do? What should we do? Can we start getting, then your own commission gets together, your own Lesterville commission gets together and says, let's make it private. You don't have to go the full amount. You can go 2%. You can say, I only want to just get going again. But then that makes you start talking. And then when you start talking, then we can come up with some solutions. And you can make it go private, or you could expand it. But if we don't, I know for certain, with tiling going on, we have to expand it. And we've
Well-
got to start down there on that end. We got to start down here on these, I've been shocked how long this has taken to get this momentum going, but we got to start at Clay Creek and come back up. And we're going to get really aggressive this next spring up there with Clay too, and saying we want more activity coming up into our way. We've been real slick, we've been just pretty easy going about it.
Been in that Clay Creek for a long time, and they always keep cleaning up downstream for.
We're always doing it. And we just haven't, I have not had the citizens to stand up and say, what the hell are you doing? You don't even come. I mean, we go down there. I've been going down there for 7 years now, and I don't think I see a handful of, I don't think I see 4 or 5 Yankton people there. And I don't know where our value isn't greater than Clay County's. So I don't know what, and then we're standing there saying, well, we sure would like to get them going again. They're like, yeah, well, tell us when, because we're going to clean the hell out of our ditches. And they have. And they've sprayed them, and they got rid of all the trees, and their ditches are in great shape.
They need to, I mean, further down, that's where it needs to be cleaned up.
But we haven't done a darn thing up here.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
time for us to start doing that.
Well,
And your ditch is complicated because you've got to not only start from way over there near the county line, you got to get him that crazy lake thing they did back behind that ditch, then get your ditch, then you got to go through that Marquardt property, and we got to get it going down that slope so then it goes down the hills on the other side of Lesterville. It's not an easy ditch.
well, and the problem, if you want to get the money assessed for it, to the people who paid to originally get it, they really aren't getting any value out of it anymore because they're flooded all the time.
So that's why we got to get, that's right, so you got to tell them, hey, let's just do a dime.
Yeah.
Because you can do any percent you want. If it says we can go up to $1,000, you can do $1. And then get the thing going, so you start getting some officers, and then get some reasonable conversation, and then stuff starts happening like what happened up at Turkey Valley.
But I guess, just to continue on with that whole thought pattern, these ditches and laterals they don't have infinite capacity, they have a limited capacity.
Yep.
And before we overburden them with people's water who have never paid anything into that, I just think we should probably be limiting it to the people who have been assessed.
Well,
We got to be careful.
Well,
And then what's our authority too? What will we use to do that?
well,
we'd have to change ordinances.
we have to
Yeah.
change our, probably change state law too.
The state law is pretty strict too, as Mr. Novak just says, hey, you're a subservient landowner, you got a blue line, you're pretty much responsible to make sure that water runs on through. That's what that 46A10A is. You're a subservient landowner, you need to let that water run through. It's a blue line. And you need to figure out how to make your own capacity. We had that issue earlier this year. So you're responsible to make sure your blue line has capacity too.
Could we possibly invite the legislators here for the November meeting?
I don't know. And what purpose?
Education and ask for help?
Maybe,
But you're gonna have to do so much educating because this drainage stuff is really complicated.
I
Yep.
noticed that.
Yeah, you
Okay.
think so?
Really?
Well, do they know any of this stuff? I mean, do they even have a basis of understanding? If
Not
they
a lot.
don't, you'll have to start with, you have to start at the very bottom of educating them.
Well,
start with the book. Okay, we've really worked hard tonight. We've got some good subject matter. I agree, but I don't think we're going to get the legislators here in a month. I'm not, unless you want to pull it off, and I am the
I'll talk to
best administrator out there. I will make it happen if you can, if we can pull that off. But let me think here. Do I have a meeting next month for?
His application,
Possibly,
possibly.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay, well, I guess we need a motion to adjourn then.
so moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Casey and John, second.
I said.